The true threat to democracy, in fact, the one candidate who has already engaged in preventing voters from participating in the democratic process of this nation by way of the presidential primaries. Love him or hate him, Donald Trump participated in an open, contested, democratic primary process where he had multiple challengers for the GOP nomination, and he won it based on votes cast in those primaries. Now, let's look at the Democratic primary process. Joe Biden had the Democratic National Committee, prior to the primaries beginning, implement new rules for the DNC and the Democratic primaries. Rules which actually prohibited and prevented other Democrats from even being able to challenge Joe Biden in the primaries in states. And the few states that, by their own regulations and laws, the DNC could not prevent primary challengers from being put on the ballot, they still basically did everything in their power to prevent a fair and equal access to the process. Joe Biden continuously repeats and claims and brags about receiving 14 million votes in the Democratic primary process. What the media and Joe Biden failed to also remind people is those 14 million votes he got because he actually actively engaged in anti-democratic measures to prevent having another challenger on that primary ballot against him. Because of DNC rules, primary challengers in the majority of the states had to have actually been designated as Democrats for the primary ballot purposes. And the DNC, in several states where they were actually challenged on it, pointed out to those states that the DNC is the only body within this nation that can designate their Democratic candidate choice. And in those states, the DNC argued that they determined that Joseph R. Biden was the DNC's Democratic candidate for the primary purposes and ballots. So, yeah, let's talk about threat to democracy. Because Joe Biden and the DNC actually, this entire process has not only stopped people from being able to participate in the democratic process, they actually threw democracy out the window to ensure that Joe Biden would be the nominee. So that's the threat to democracy that I see. When a sitting president and a party committee is able to and allowed to prevent anybody from actively challenging the DNC's choice of candidate in an open primary process. So the real threat to democracy in my book is Joseph R. Biden.